Welcome everyone. This is the Training and AutoML Walking Road Community Call on 26th of November. As always, we're going to record this call and publish on YouTube, and we follow the CNCF Code of Conduct. So before just we get started, any kind of new people here on the call who just want to say hello, just want to introduce yourself to the community? Um, Feel free to, use chat or unmute yourself if you want to say hi.
Hey, hi everyone. I am Arjun. I work at Nutanix, and this is my first time attending a Kubeflow trainer meeting, and I'm excited to just see how things happen here.
Thanks for joining. Anyone else? All right. So I guess we have few topics to talk about. I know again, as I said, like the majority of folks this week on vacation, but let's maybe quickly go through the items and talk about the updates for trainer and other work streams. So first of all, I think we discussed in the last SDK call about KubeCon a little bit. So I think KubeCon was a great success for us and for trainer specifically because we released the 2.1. So this is the announcement for the 2.1 release. It has a bunch of features there. So if you haven't tried, please try to deploy this in your cluster. This is release introduced a lot of changes actually. There are several breaking changes that I want to maybe call out here on the call. Like if you use 2.0, please make sure to read this release notes. Specifically, we changed the API from pod spec override to pod template overrides. We kind of like replace some settings for controller config, and we upgrade the version for job set and Kubernetes. I think like the first one is the most important one because if you deploy train job on your cluster, please make sure you kind of update your jobs. Like our plan is to soon introduce beta API and V1. So in V1, like we definitely cannot break we cannot introduce any breaking changes, and we planning to do this as soon as we can. So we have a stable release for train job. But like I hope in the next couple of quarters we can work together to make sure APIs are stable, so we can release the V1 of train job and training runtimes. There are another great things around new features. Like we finally released the data cache, which is kind of like the work we started almost a year ago. So this actually allows you to stream massive amount of data directly to GPUs without wasting your GPU time to process the data. I think this will be significant, especially for large scale workloads when you require to process like a lot of data. I probably will won't go to the details here, but if you're interested, please take a look on these docs. So we have like this new page where I explain what is data cache is about, how it works, why you should use it and consider to use it in your train jobs. I think overall, this feature has a lot of potential. We're right now trying to kind of like working on benchmarks to provide more comprehensive, idea around why you should consider to use the data cache for your workloads. And of course, we try to integrate this to hyperparameter optimization when multiple jobs need to access the same cache. So eventually, this will be super useful for many things. Other things like around, post-training runtimes, we support the Qwen runtime, things like Cache for this. We also support like LoRa and QLoRa Dora in trainer, like basically in built-in trainers, which is pretty cool. We also continue to enhance support for Q. We introduced like Volcano, new scheduler, in addition to Q and co-scheduling plugins, and there are a bunch of bug fixes for 2.1. So please take a look and try this out and let us know if you see any problems for 2.1 release. Um, any questions so far for 2.1? All right. So in the case, yeah, I think that maybe we also have a Helm charts. So if you want to try this out, you can install Trainer Control Plan with Helm. It's pretty simple. We publish them on OCI, on GHCR actually, GitHub and the registry. So you can also try this out. Also, like before KubeCon, we released the Kubeflow SDK. version 2.0.1.0.2, and we recently also released 0.2.1, which has several bug fixes. So this is the blog post for Kubeflow SDK, and again, as we discussed last week, many folks get exciting about Pythonic experience to manage their AI workloads. So if you want to see the overview of what it is about and what is the work is going on in the future, please take a look in the blog post. In the new release, we support trainer workloads and also the optimization workloads, which means they can simply do training and optimization using exactly the same APIs and simple like assistant interface between two of those experiences, or like training and for optimization. And I know like there is also work to support Spark workloads within SDK. So if you want to get involved, um, feel free to take a look at this cap. I probably will link it to the trainer doc as well. Um, yeah, Spark client. So this is the cap is going on. It's very exciting to see how we can introduce, Spark client in addition to try jobs and optimization jobs. So if you want to help, please take a look at this proposal to support Spark jobs within Kubeflow SDK. I think also I want to kind of call out is the survey here. So we, as part of the Kubeflow SDK work stream, we try to collect feedback from scientists and ML engineers. So I think what will be super helpful if folks on this call or if you listen to the recording can actually share this survey with your scientists. So even if they don't use Kubeflow or Kubeflow SDK, or even if they don't plan to use it, we try to like gather feedback on their experience and understand what are the current challenges, existing challenges they have to run those workloads at scale. So if you can just share this with with your teams or with your colleague, that will be super helpful for us to understand like what should be our focus on in the next couple of months. And this is pretty simple survey, just asking about their existing challenges, like where they spend the majority of their time and how we can improve the experience. And we also have this discussion thread where, if you want to have any follow-up questions for SDK or, ask any clarified points about this experience, feel free to, use this forum to discuss things. I can also link it in the doc. Any questions for SDK or for survey or anything on the SDK side?
And you just a suggestion like for SDK, did we post it on LinkedIn? Because I think only on Slack that's there.
Yeah, so you mean like for the announcement, right?
No, no, announcement is there. I think in outreach also you have put you or Anya have put the message before. But
Yep.
I think from LinkedIn, have you posted that survey link? I think
Oh,
because
yeah,
the audio
like
is
yeah, like
bigger.
mhm. You mean just for the server, right? Not for the blog post.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I think we should do it. I think I probably it's a good call out. Maybe I should ask
LinkedIn,
Valentino or Tarek or you, Akash, can just post it in LinkedIn. Uh,
because even I was, I mean, like just recently, even I was filling the form because I have like exposure with like few sets of trainer and other things. There
mhm.
are a lot of other things. So if we post in a wider audience, where let's say other scientists, other people who are working
Yeah.
in like they will, I think, find it much useful. At least that's what even I felt when I was filling the form.
Yep. Yeah, I also think I need to post because all this was done just before KubeCon, just one day before KubeCon. I don't think we have a chance to post it on LinkedIn yet. Um,
Maybe we could have tried during KubeCon as well if there was time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's right. Yeah, let me. So I think that next week, once the majority of folks will come back in the US, we probably will. We need to kind of remind people to fill this survey, and the
Mhm.
survey will stay open until like end of the year. So, I mean, we will check like January how many responses we have, and then like we
Okay,
decide whether we want to close it or keep it open for a while.
sure, sure.
All right. Anything else here? Sounds great. So I guess there are a couple of questions I want to maybe discuss on the call about trainer existing PRs. So we kind of first of all, let me ask you, so do we have any plans where we want to have a release of 2.2, for example? I know maybe we should maybe talk about, V1 deprecation and uh, changeover. V1 migration. So I think that there are several questions I kind of like received from users about V1 like training operator support. I think previously we kind of announced that we plan to duplicate training operator in May 2026. So training operator, I want to hear like thoughts. We don't need to like kind of have an answer right now, but maybe at least understanding the timeline and understanding how we should tell users that, hey, you should probably migrate, and in May the support, we will stop supporting you. And I guess uh, the problem that I see that's actually PyTorch jobs and TF jobs was used by many companies in production, at least like what we saw in the KubeCon, and previously folks was adopting those CRDs, because PyTorch jobs was exist for last 7 years. Um, I just want to hear like maybe what are your perspective on deprecation, and do we need more time or any kind of maybe ideas how we can communicate with users better?
Yeah, on our side, Android, yeah, this is basically what we are communicating on OpenShift AI side. But
Hmm.
we are saying that so we are gonna productize trainer v2 and saying that the trainer operator is going to be deprecated. I don't know from upstream. I thought it was already somewhat like in the website, somewhat announced that it's already deprecated.
Hmm. Yeah, I think we haven't. So in terms of timeline, I think yeah, we haven't really have a clear date
Mm, okay, yeah,
yet, right?
it's more like
So
just on the document when you've said like V1 trainer V1, you mean the migration? You mean the graduation of the API or really the migration?
yeah, you mean should we first do V1 gradation and then deprecation, or do we first when you do deprecation then gradation?
Uh,
Yeah.
so well, yeah, that's somewhat that. But if you don't mind, like going back to the meeting notes,
Okay.
just for a quick moment, like yeah, when you say the entrain job V1 migration, you mean migration or the fact that
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah,
we graduate from alpha
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
beta?
So
Yeah, okay, graduation. Yeah.
I think you're right. So let's so first of all, from your perspective, we should do deprecation once we have V1, right, for train job API.
Yeah, well, to me, it seems like naturally that'd be better that we graduate at least in beta because
Hmm.
the beta requirements are pretty close to what a GA or like a V1 is when the last time I looked at the criteria from the Kubernetes API lifecycle. Uh, Beta is really like you're not gonna remove it, and
Hmm.
while alpha it clearly like you can do whatever you want. So at least reaching beta level would be good before like somewhat more officially announcing the deprecation of PyTorch job and the V1 APIs.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think you're right. So once we introduce the beta API, we cannot introduce breaking changes, right? So
Right. Yeah. Then yeah, or you have to at least cut a new version and provide some
mhm.
migration webhook or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I see. So from your perspective, do we need to have a beta API 2.2, or we can do this around like April, March timeframe. Like from my perspective, we can do maybe releases. I think previously we discussed like every
Mm,
quarter.
mm,
Like, we can have release every 3 months, for example, um,
yes.
or like 4 months. I just like want to understand, like, how much time do you think we should give users to adopt before we can have a beta version?
Yeah.
Mhm. Um,
Mm. That's a good question. That's a good question. Now, on your previous question, like, should we wait for
mhm.
2.2 or 2.3? Well, it seems like it could wait if we want. Like, I know we are gonna introduce the progress and metric in the status
Yep.
API. So maybe we want us to we want us to, I mean, we want to give us like the ability to introduce breaking changes on that.
Yep.
Um, to me, it doesn't sound like a big deal if that goes to 2.4,
Hmm.
2.3, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like more worry about CTR, the cluster training runtime APIs, because I know there is. I mean, we design an API in the way that right now we have pod group policy, ML policy, and
Mm, mm,
templates.
mm.
I think it's we need to kind of figure out whether this API will not get, because first of all, do you think that we should gradate those APIs together, the change open the runtimes, right, to the version beta one? Um,
Technically, it doesn't have to,
mhm.
but yeah, they've been around for a while, so
Mhm.
um, and at some point, I guess we would have to um, how could I say, like, um, consider like the graduation, like it's even at the risk of I mean, being stuck with part of the API that we would have liked to refactor. It's the way it is. At some point, we
Yep.
just cannot keep, being alpha forever, I guess. Um,
Yeah. So I kind of like, I mean, we have this problem with job set, right? Like
yes. Yeah.
job set, I mean, has an alpha API for like 2 years,
Yeah.
um, and actually 1.5 year, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
many companies are already adopting job set in
Yep.
production. So
Yep. Yeah.
let, let me, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
The job set, that's also the example I had in mind. Like, it feels like they are not like, could I say, like, they do not feel comfortable to do the graduation, but at some point you have to do it. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think that's a good strategy to keep the API forever in alpha. That doesn't really give a good signal. And I understand that. I mean, obviously we are maintainers, so um, so I mean, by doing that, we lose the flexibility of doing what any breaking changes. But that's I guess, the game.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
the question is more like, on your point on cluster turning runtime. What is it that you would see that in the current API? Adding new stuff is fine, so that's not the question. But like, from
Yeah.
the API surface that's currently there, do you see a risk that there is something there that we will need to break and
Yeah, I think we need to probably. So I know there is some. So we have some API which kind of right now unused. For example, for I think torch policy. So I think previously, initially when
Mm,
we designed this,
mm,
we introduced elastic support,
yeah, yeah,
but because we don't really have any elasticity in job set, we haven't
mm,
really
mm,
get a chance
mm,
to work on
mm.
this.
So, for example, for that kind of particular example, to me
Mm.
it feels like intuitively I would remove what is not used,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then added. You see what I mean? Like, maybe we can do that. Like, review the surface,
yeah.
remove any stuff that's not used, and possibly re-add it once we work on the actual feature. And for example, like, for instance, the elastic PyTorch elastic support. But if, yeah, you're right, it's not used. So I mean, there is no reason why. So maybe we can do that while it's alpha. We remove any
Yep.
unused bits and reconsider that later when we have time to work on the functionality.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think like it's, I mean, the migration from my perspective, I think as we discussed last time, really depends on customer adoption. I know like,
Mm,
you know,
true.
as I mean, you said like OpenShift is adopting train job, right? So do we
Yes.
have any
Yeah.
timelines from you guys when you're planning to kind of put this to the customer hands? Um,
Well, they'll, any new customer will have to use train job.
mm,
For the existing one, will support the V1 for our official support period.
mhm,
And so on our side, we'll have to maintain, however, whatever decision is being made upstream, we'll have to support V1 for at least a year or so.
okay.
And but any new customer starting with an upcoming version of OpenShift AI, they'll have to use Train Job, and
Mhm,
yeah, and they won't be able to use V1.
okay. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I think it's fine. So, but the timeline, like as you said, like it's maybe a year, right? From
So Train Job, no, so it's beginning of next year, let's say it like that, for new customer at something around March, they'll have to use V2, any new
mm,
customer. So that would be the timeline.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I mean, I ideally the beta would come close to that timeline, I would say,
okay.
like just to, but it's not a big deal. I mean, we can live with uh, the train job being alpha for, but it still give a stronger signal when at least it's better.
Mhm.
And yeah, does that answer your question, Andre?
No, yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, like from our side, we also try to kind of like migrate customers. I mean, actually this
Yeah,
month.
yeah.
And give them at least. But I mean, I don't expect like, you know, my team will give a lot of kind of feedback on API because again, we don't. Uh,
Yes, yeah, yeah.
we mostly kind of probably leveraging the job site kind of capabilities, like, you know, failure policy, etc., but not a lot of kind of like advanced scale like API, for example. We don't have like many users who use today
Mm, mm.
deep speed or MLX. It probably will be in the future potential, but not right now. Let me ask this question. So, Aaron, since you're on the call from Nutanix side, so do you know like what is your timeline for adoption, or you just exploring yet still? Um, because I know that you've been using training operator before, right? At least what I know from Jono.
We're using train job, or at least
Hmm.
planning to use train job. We're not using the training operator.
Is it already in production or is still in POC?
No, no, it's still in POC.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
actually, our concern is that it is still in V1 alpha,
Hmm.
and when there's a migration to beta, then uh, what all things can break. That is something we are concerned about.
Okay. And what is your timeline to put this in production?
We are probably planning somewhere around early next year, around March.
Hmm. And I guess like you don't need to do migration, right? You directly just, you know, using the train job, right? And
Yeah.
in okay. Uh, so March and like, is there any specific capability like you want from train job, or like you kind of like mostly on PyTorch these days, um, and PyTorch distributed? Um,
So one thing we were looking at was if we can get the training metrics as part of the job status.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the one that's like the Antonian team. I mean, the OpenShift team is working on. So
Yeah.
definitely like that, but that won't break API. So that will expand in the
Yeah.
next release. So um, yeah, I think that makes sense. Again, like I kind of maybe expect like till April we will have maybe two releases. So maybe like in Jan or like in February we can have 2.2 when we include this trend job metrics. And also I think we have this discussion with checkpointing. Like I will have the conversation with Radiston around whether we want to introduce new kind of checkpoint policy API, or we can think about this, right? Um, and I know there is also like a cap for Flux, for example, supporting Flux policy. So I think it's fine overall. let's try to target maybe March, April. We will have a beta API because then we have more customers adoption and at least the feedback from users, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sounds good. So I think before May to the 2 and to the 3, I think. But let's see how it goes. Yeah, I mean, like, I think what is more important here is to at least like users who are adopting this give us a feedback, right? And if there are any kind of changes they want to make, etc., I think that will be super helpful to understand for us here. I know the job said, like, the plans there is to introduce v.0.11, I think, in December. And then we're planning to kind of, I think, have a V1 afterwards. I think with the problem with job set, there are a lot of kind of changes customers require. That is why they kind of like want to change an API very fast at the same time. But at the same time, like we don't have time to think about, which APIs must be deprecated, etc. So it's hard right now to see, where V1 will be there. But the 0.11 will be sometime, I think, in December, at least like what I heard from Kevin last time. Yeah, so let's see how it goes. Um, so I think I also maybe quickly want to talk about a few maybe ongoing caps. So I think this PR is mostly about, fixing the bug that we don't really propagating the resources per node to Volcano scheduler. I think I know Yuki, he's on the call right now, but maybe Antonio, like from your side, have you got a chance to take a look at these changes, or no, not yet?
No, I haven't. I'll try to give it a cycle like soon.
All right. Yeah, I think, I mean, my point here, like if you remember, like before KubeCon, we discussed that right now it's kind of tricky how we propagate resources per node to the underlying job set.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think
that's
we
right.
kind of try to make sure the plugins
Yeah.
specify resources for the pod set correctly.
Mm, mm, mm.
So
Yeah, that was for MPI, right? Yeah.
exactly. So my DM was maybe like inside our um, info object. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, in runtime. Yeah, so basically in the info object when we do have the pod set. So this is the full internal, like we can break it easily. It's like
Yeah, true.
it's
Yeah.
right. So but in the pod set today we only have the single pod requests. I think this was done by Yuki because we need to have this information for cascade plugins.
Maybe Q, no, because
Yeah, for Q, I think as well. Yeah,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
right. So my idea was maybe we should, because we need to propagate resources from plugins to builder, from to job set builder.
Yes.
Instead of having only requests, maybe we should have the entire single pod resources where we can
Mm,
use.
mm, mm.
Yeah, moving forward in the framework, right?
Makes sense.
Yeah, let's definitely see. I mean, take a look. I think like
Yes, sure. Yeah,
this
will do.
PR should fix the volcano, and at the same time, we can think about the refactoring for this for
Yeah,
the.
the on your point, you mentioned like that it's internal API. One thing just to remember is now Q they are
Mm.
beginning to that to with the trainer integration, I think. So just to make sure each time we touch on that, we take that into account.
Yeah, it's a good call out. So, um, yeah, I think in that case we might need to, whether do this simultaneously, right, in queue and in the job.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yeah, that can be done, but as you say, it has to be done synchronously.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, but that won't break queue API.
no,
Yeah,
probably
it'll
no.
break controller.
No,
You're
no.
right.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, let's definitely make sure we cover this. I will create a queue issue unless, I mean, if we need to do any changes there.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So other things, again, we have this kind of four caps in progress. So for the Flux, I think we still have this conversation around, whether we want to introduce new policy or we want to extend the ML policy with Flux. So I know, but so Vanessa, she's not here right now, but let's continue conversation in the proposal. Um, any thoughts here on the call you we want to call out for this work? Um, So the high level idea, like we want to support other HPC schedulers in addition to Bootstrap API. And I know there is kind of an interest from HPC community to integrate Flux within TrainJob. And as far as I know, like it gives additional performance boost compared to API, bootstrapping API with OpenSSH servers that we do today. I think there is some, I mean, overall, we need to kind of understand, like because we going in the space to HPC, um, I mean, what I want to say, like, I mean, if you actually, as your HPC users see the value of, of our APIs, we probably want to give them, place to do this work. That is why maybe it's also for us, like, on ML space, maybe it will be interesting to compare, like Flux versus raw API, what is faster and better, especially for like an API-based workloads like MLX, which using API for collective communication. But again, like, API, I think the discussion we should kind of have it's whether we want to introduce HPC policy or my suggestion was to just have Flux policy under ML policy. Um, because I don't think we can support arbitrary HPC managers without really changing an API. But anyway, we can continue this conversation in the proposal. It should be fine. Any questions here? Right. So other things, for the change of metrics, like Antonio, do you want to add anything here? I know we have a long conversation at KubeCon, how this we can move forward to this. Um,
Yeah.
any, yeah, good.
No, so we are gonna update the current cape anytime soon. We are still somewhat like discussing on the implementation, like the way um, somewhere, how could I say, like to have the operator being able to get access to the metrics. So it's still more on the instrumentation part. So the last time we checked, we discussed together, like we were suggesting that maybe we could have an endpoint, a metrics endpoint exposed by the rank 0 node, and that the operator would periodically pull to get the current metrics and update the train job status. So the team in Red Hat, like at Red Hat, started somewhat like uh, implementing that approach. And one thing that they found is that it's a bit tricky, for the last. But I remember we talked about it. Like you anticipated that difficulty that when the train job is about to complete, like how to make sure that the operator is able to do a last pull
Yep.
to read the latest metrics, because having the latest metrics, I think, is important, because if you do like what we are doing, just in time checkpointing, you want to make sure that the metric they are consistent with the checkpoints. And
Yep.
also, if we are using Katib, you really have to have the latest metrics available. So so while they were implementing that, they were like trying to put in place some sort of barrier, or like or pre-stop hook, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
and wait for the last pull. But it gets a bit convoluted. So maybe I don't know. Rob suggested that was suggesting that maybe we could really quickly, if I may, like take a minute to really have your really quick thought on quick feedback on that. He was suggesting that maybe we could flip the implementation where the rank 0 node would actually push the metric in an endpoint exposed by the operator, so that would solve that part where you miss the last pull. But then you have to have some sort of like security and airbag to only allow the train job pod to push the and have some sort of an endpoint exposed by the operator. So I don't know what you think from your experience or from on top of your head, if you have any comment on that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think again, as we discussed, pooling is always tricky. I'm like wondering if we introduce the pre-stop lifecycle hooks
Yes,
in
yeah,
here, and like add the basically like the line, the specific like the comment to the metrics file which indicates the ends.
yes, yeah,
This
yeah,
is what we do in Ktip today. So we basically have this
mm,
specific
yeah,
indicator which
yeah,
says
exactly, yeah,
the job is complete.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this is not really, I mean, the question like how reliable it is, right? Um,
Yeah, probably, and how complex, because in the case of train job, that's been done by at the moment it's the SDK that instrument the training loop, and it adds all that machinery and
mhm.
configure the train job with pod spec override at the pre-stop hook. So
We can, yeah. Can we, yeah, so how you gonna put this pre-life cycle hook all the way to the job set, right? Your question is. Um,
I think you can do it probably in the pod spec override. We could imagine it's been done by the trainer itself. Like, I mean, we could have some logic in there as well. Um, but
yeah,
it's more the machinery that that waits for the gate, or that has to be at the runtime level. Um,
yeah, but the question is like we don't have any API on the runtime or the train job which indicates that we want to collect metrics, right? So first of all, we need to answer like whether we always
no,
want to collect,
yes,
right?
absolutely. At the moment, we haven't.
Mm-hmm.
We the idea was to try to hide that from the spec of the train job, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and only being driven by the SDK.
Mm-hmm. I think
Uh,
so. From my understanding, not by SDK, but the callbacks, right? So the
so
callback.
so that the callback, yeah, but the setup of that whole
Mm-hmm.
instrumentation is done by the SDK. Then indeed the actual at runtime it's done by the callback,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, So I don't know. I was just dumping the current state of it. I mean, we can discuss it async or in a follow up.
yeah. I think we need to figure out whether we need to introduce this kind of policy for progress, because I would imagine there will be other settings like timeout pooling, or other settings you want to configure in the for the pooling,
Yeah,
right?
they are true. There are some, yeah. So we can. So at the moment, yeah, because we are driving that more midstream for the product, so we were trying
Yeah.
to minimize the public API surface, so only focus on the reaching a consensus on the status part. Then we
Mm-hmm.
can incrementally add more like APIs for configuring it. But
Yeah.
you're right. There are some like probabilic parameter that would make sense to expose. Um, and
Because one of the idea could be to introduce, for example, progress policy in the cluster training runtime, right? Yeah.
yes, you're right. But having said that, to me, I think like generally, I think I would expect anybody to want to have those metric in the status.
Yeah, but the trick would be if you don't have callback, right? You're like if you, for example, use one of the framework which doesn't support
Yes,
callbacks, right?
yeah. So there is a matter of coverage, how much we can. So yeah, we'll have to.
And also, like it's very tricky to detect whether a user, uses callback in the code, right? Because if, for example, like let's say we always have a, status for torch policy, but then like, for the torch policy, you can use torch with callbacks, you can use torch without callbacks, right? So how you will detect if user, using those callbacks in the code, right?
Yeah, so the idea is that it's being what the team is trying to do is that it's all being hidden from the end user. Like
Mm,
the trainer in the SDK, they are introducing specialized trainer, like for example, like a Hugging Face transformer trainer. You
okay,
see,
okay.
and that particular trainer, it knows because it's a Hugging Face trainer
Mm,
like
okay,
it
okay.
knows it knows how to register in the global, variable where you can hook some callbacks, and
Yeah,
and and these are extra callbacks that we that are being registered by the SDK by that trainer. Then the
mm,
end user can do whatever they want, like then add their own, but it's not on the end user to add their. So maybe I don't remember the exact state of the CAPA, but
mhm.
this is the current direction, like the SDK specialized trainer and completely hidden from the end user.
Yeah, I understand. So, and then you do some sort of like monkey patching, right? Or,
Yeah. So depending on the yeah, absolutely. So depending on the library, there are like a couple of different strategy. Um, some of the so transformer it has a global variable where you can actually add some default callback, which is good. So that's what we are using. But there are a couple of places where indeed you may have to do some monkey patching and monkey patching. To be honest, when you look at, for example, MLflow, it's all
Mhm.
about monkey patching and all that.
Yeah, I
At
see.
some point, um, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's a fairly acceptable strategy. It's not the most easy to maintain, but it's what it
Mhm.
is. Like
Yeah, I understand. But we still need to build this instrumentation in the underlying frameworks like transformers or torch, right?
not necessarily if they provide the mechanism where you can actually
Oh,
hook
okay.
into. So, for example, transformer, you don't really have to because they have those proper callback and it's
Mm.
really fine grained, so you can do a lot of things.
Yeah,
PyTorch, yes, for some other part, like for example, for what we do, the just-in-time checkpointing, it's a bit tricky
yeah.
because PyTorch it has a default graceful termination stuff, so and it's not configurable at the moment. So there might be some work to be done like in those upstream like yeah, libraries.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah. You've opened it's sad, right? The proposal for the maybe specialized trainer. Yeah, that's somewhat along the line of that
I
proposal as well.
see.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but the question would be like, how we will propagate information from SDK all the way to the
Right.
controller.
Yeah, yeah. That's the key. That's the key question. Like at the moment that we are still debating on.
Yeah.
So
We can use
do
annotations, for example, right?
well, but annotation you will have to. You mean you will have to allow the. I guess the question is if you allow the node, the training node,
Mm,
access to the API server, then
mm. Okay, okay. Yeah, but like what I want to say, like, to indicate, for example, that torch trainer is used in the controller, we can use train job like metadata annotation or label, right? Like a,
yeah, you
and
can.
this annotation, for example, is like, for example, let's say we will add this annotation like trainer type to
Yes, yeah,
train job,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then
We could
yeah,
do. Yeah,
when controller see this, like it add this, post lifecycle hook or post
yeah.
pre-store
True.
hook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that part I'm not too much worried. It's really what do we decide? Like, is it poll
yeah.
based? Is it push based? And
I understand. I think
the,
push.
the-
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think push versus pull, I think this is the kind of like the tricky one we should probably answer.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. And
uh,
there are the problem with push is that you have to have you either have to allow the node, the training node, to have some permission on the API server, or because
Mm.
basically if you do that, like almost the node zero, the rank zero node
Yeah, yeah,
pod
yeah.
could almost do the update directly to the train job status. Like,
Yeah, so I think this is what they've done for JobSet recently. So JobSet they recently introduced in-place restarts,
okay,
and for in-place restarts, like I think that what they do inside, they have a sidecar.
yeah,
They're updating the port annotations, right? If I remember correctly. So I can link the
hmm.
here.
Okay, okay, that's good. That's good example. Yeah, we, if that's a pattern that other project do,
Mhm.
that would be a good, because yeah, really like the simplest thing would be that is the rank zero pod that directly updates the train job
Mhm.
status. That would be really the. But the problem is that you have to grant permission on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of
So
and you know the training job, it runs arbitrary user code. Like it can, you can install whatever packages you want, and then you know what can go wrong.
yeah.
So that's the reason why we try to avoid that. But if there are ways to somewhat mitigate the security aspect, and other people or the
Um,
project does it.
yeah, so I think how we've done is we're actually creating VIP, which is validation admission policy, which
Okay.
allows to only update basically like the so basically
Ah,
what they've done, we detect the service account, and
yeah.
the service account can only update a specific property
Okay. I
in
see.
the job set, which means like
Okay.
it can
Okay.
only it can only update a
Uh,
specific
yeah.
part of the job
Yeah.
set.
It's a way to control the.
Exactly.
In our case, I think that would be fine because you can actually grant, or we can even be like that, even more fine grained. But you can grant only access to the status sub resource
Hmm.
with the name with the name of that train job. So you can be really narrow.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
other the other concern, if we go that path, is that then the trainer, the operator, would have
yeah,
to have the permission to create service account, role
yeah. So
role
you're
binding, roles.
actually, it's a good point. So why, yeah, it's actually a good point. Why we cannot allow train job controller to create those resources, right? You know,
Well,
VA.
we can. I mean, I know project that well, you have like many operator, they create roles and cluster
Mm.
role binding and stuff like that. It's more a matter of like yeah,
Because like
but
what basically we've done here, and you can definitely like look
yeah,
offline, but the idea is that the sidecar watch for job set and
yes,
patch the pods.
yeah,
We need
yeah,
to kind of have this annotation be added to the pods directly, and the sidecar is watching for the main
and
container.
that's the role that's bound to the service account
Yeah, to the service
that
account.
runs the job set, right?
Exactly. Yes. So
Okay, 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 yeah, yeah,
So these all of these actual resources, a good point, can be created by the job set controller. Like
yeah, yeah,
we've
absolutely.
been thinking about creating this by the user because the service account is
No, no,
unique, but
yeah, I know it should not be created by the end user. It's really the trainer could create all those type of resources like the role binding,
mhm, mhm.
um, we, and the service
Yeah, I think
account.
yeah. We can actually take the same approach for this capability, right? To update to.
Maybe,
Mhm.
yeah,
But then the question would be like, what like so I think like there was a discussion whether, like the main container should update the job set status, but I think they decided not to do this approach
yeah.
because it will conflict with the controller, right? Which means they only
Uh,
yeah.
well, if you use SSA or patch, you don't have that much conflict, I would say.
Um
If that's what you're talking about, like
yeah,
the
yeah,
update.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that's the sidecar approach is an interesting one as well. Unfortunately, and that's really unfortunate that Kubernetes does not allow to run different containers in a pod with different service account.
yeah, that's
That's
right.
really
That's right.
unfortunate. And Okay, so that's good to know. Probably, I mean, I don't want, and we don't have too much time, but okay, thanks. That helps. I'm gonna discuss that internally and see. Well, but I mean, just because for updating the cape so that we. But if I understand it correctly, you wouldn't be like I don't know if we somewhat follow the job set pattern for you, that would be something to acceptable or
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like, to be honest, like I don't like this job set foreign because I mean it's really
okay.
but I mean, like, I mean, if you don't have any other options, we can definitely talk
Yeah,
about where
yeah,
maybe we have like some smart ideas. So I think again, we probably should just answer whether we choose pull or push based mechanism. And
yeah,
again, I think
yeah, yeah,
pre-stop
yeah.
hook is much
Cool.
easier to implement, but how reliable it will be, like we don't know yet, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let me check that reliability thing and the complexity level. Maybe I'll ask Rob if we can share the current implementation so you guys
yeah,
can have a look.
that
That,
makes
that that will give an idea of the complexity that we are talking about.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's follow up for this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thanks.
I think, yeah, this is right. Again, this is actually gives a lot of opportunity, this, instrumentation for checkpointing as well. So let's definitely,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It helps in very different. It's larger than the metric alone. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and I know we're almost like over time. So I want to quickly say that, we have this open PR to support actually Kai scheduler. So I kind of like have a long conversation with folks from NVIDIA to see how we can, improve the capability to run train job with GB200. And I think, Kai scheduler is actually a very powerful scheduler to a lot, like, which has a lot of kind of integration with frameworks like Dynamo from NVIDIA. And I know it's mostly for inference, but for training, I think we can have some interesting, integrations there as well. So if you're interested, please take a look at this with this PR, this documentation update. Um, yeah. So, and I think also maybe I want to mention about workload API. So I know, so in 135 Kubernetes, the workload API has been merged. I think we should probably do something on our side to kind of support gang scheduling within our pod group policy API. And this could be a very simple cap. We just create a workload API based on our spec, and that will actually have a native support for gang scheduling using this new capability. And I know leader worker set, for example, also like starting to adopting the workload API. So I think that will be interesting for us to investigate. Um, any other questions so far before we wrap up? All right, sounds great. So let's definitely follow up for this, and I will link this proposal for workload API in lead worker set. I think this is what probably we want to do the same in train job. So let's see how it goes. And eventually, because this will give us, all the capabilities that workload API eventually have with topology awareness, etc. I know Q has all those capability, but there is some interest from Kubernetes community to push something to upstream to core, so folks can leverage those capabilities directly in Kubernetes core without additional schedulers being installed on top. I think we can do this. Right. Any last questions, comments? Sounds great. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Really exciting time going on, and let's definitely follow up for these caps. Looking forward for the next release. I think we definitely can do something very interesting for Amsterdam, especially if we, have time to finalize all this work. So yeah, thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.